We're interviewing one of the originals from Ambrosia, founder.
Actually, in a way, I guess I did start the band because I was just asked this question: was there like a group that people laughed and the way it sort of started after high school? I was asked by a friend to join a band he was in that was doing all original music. Up to that time, I was just playing, top 40. I wasn't really writing songs just per se. So graduated from high school, joined this band, and after a while, thought maybe we could get another guy in. I know this guy named Dave Pack, sings, plays guitar, and so Dave joined the band, and I was playing rhythm guitar at the time. And the bass player was he was an electronic genius, a guy named Jim Gamble. And he turns to me one day and goes, "Joe, you're going to buy me 2 D140 speakers, and I'm going to give you my bass, and you're going to be the bass player. I'm going to start a sound company." I was like, all right. That was easy. So I did that. Went out, got him a couple speakers. He built a cabinet, started doing little sounds. He built his own electronics and stuff, his own little mixers. Started doing our sound like at the YMCA and stuff like that. Then he went to work for Tycho Brahe, which was the big rock. They were doing the Rolling Stones and Rod Stewart. And he had a little money, and he started designing what he was capable of designing. He became one of the top console designers in the rock business. Gamble consoles are fairly famous. So anyway, people at the interview I had the other day, so Dave was the first guy to be brought in. We had a keyboard player. He was more interested in getting high and chasing tail than he was practicing his keyboard. So, he said, "We gotta get another guy." I said, "Well, I got this guy I went to high school with, man. Chris North. You got to see this guy, Dave." So we go, Dave was still in high school. I just graduated. And we go to the rehearsal of this other band. And there's Chris, in the back of the room, this little kind of like workshop that they had converted into a rehearsal space. It was all artsy. There was like a coffin with speakers in it, psychedelically painted. There was, all these crazy, posters everywhere. And there's Chris at the back of the room playing his Hammond. Not a B3 yet. He had an M100, an M3. Got a bottle of wine on the Hammond, smoking a cigarette, and a girl was massaging his shoulders as he played. I said, "Man, we got to get this guy in the band. We're just out of high school. This guy's already a rock star." So next guy we got in the band was Chris. So it was Dave and I and Chris. And one by one, the guys that were in the band, the other guitar player dropped out. So it was just Dave, myself, Chris, and we had a drummer. And the drummer got his girlfriend pregnant. Suddenly had to take care of the kid and get a job. He couldn't practice, da-da-da-da. So I was like, "Man, we can't do this. We got to have somebody that's free to, pursue this full time."
Were you Ambrosia, or you were?
We were not called Ambrosia. We were called Ambergris Might. And so that drummer left the band, and we went to a place called Musicians Contact Service, which had volumes of names of drummers that had signed up to try to, get work. As we're going through all the names, we came across this name, Burley Drummond. We thought, "Oh, come on, there's got to be he can't be any good. A guy with a name like that, he's got to be, he's just trying to live off his name or something." So anyway, called up Burley, and he came down and he jammed with us. And after that rehearsal, we said, "Oh my gosh, got to get this guy in the band." So Burley joined the band at that point, and we started doing shows with the name Ambergris Might. And lo and behold, on Paramount Records, I think it was, a band comes out called Ambergris. I thought, shoot, we got to change our name. But we're already playing around with this name, so maybe we get something similar. So I just went to the dictionary and started looking, Ambrosia, what's that? Oh, it's the nectar of the gods. It used to be eaten by the gods on Mount Olympus. It kept them immortal, it made them, youthful and immortal. I thought, well, that's kind of like explains music in a way. It keeps you young.
Great name.
And it lives forever.
Nobody else came
so
close to that name.
Ambrosia, it became. We've been that ever since.
And what were some of the groups that influenced you before you got involved?
Well, I think groups, of course, everybody says the Beatles. I actually, when I first started playing cover bands, I was really into Rolling Stones more than the Beatles. I liked, But then gradually we got into some of the more English proggy groups like Yes, Moody Blues, King Crimson. But at the same time, I always, as a singer and musician, I always loved the great Motown singers. Marvin Gaye was always my idol as far as the greatest singer to me. And then Sam Cooke, female vocalist, of course, Aretha Franklin, and we loved all the Motown stuff. We loved the Philly stuff,
Like the Philly stuff. I was gonna say
OJ's,
that, yeah.
all that, the great R&B that was coming out of America. Incorporating all of this into our style, the Beatles, Motown, prog, we're a mixture of all that. You hear it in our music. Some
My
song might
soul,
be
yeah.
like Biggest Part of Me has much more of an R&B feel, whereas Nice Nice Very Nice or something like that has more of that English, yes, proggy thing going on, with a little bit of Paul Simon in there too. Another great influence, Paul Simon.
How much I feel, biggest part of me, you're the only woman. Do you have a personal favorite? Most guys say they're all mine.
Well, they're all they're all I can't it's always hard to say favorite. It's like if you had 3 kids, which one do you like the best? It's hard to they're all good. They're all different, and to me, the main thing is to do justice to the compositions with arranging and performance, and that's always been the challenge, I think, of any group, is to not just get a good song, but to arrange it well and then ultimately perform it well.
1970 to 1982 and 1989 to the present time. Those years in between, 82 to 89, what were you doing? You just doing
Well, I actually did pretty well. I joined up with first, after the band broke up, I was kind of like lost. I'd been in the band since basically high school, right after high school. I got a call from, it was a friend of Burley's who was looking for some players for Sheena Easton. She was putting together an American band to do some tours around the U.S. and Asia and stuff. So I said, sure. They said, do you know any keyboard players that sing? I said, yeah, I've got a friend of mine, Bruce Hornsby. He plays and he sings. So I got Bruce in the band. So I was playing bass, Bruce was playing keyboards with Sheena. We did that for 2 years, 83 and 84, after the band broke up. During that time, Bruce asked me to play with him on local gigs. So when we were off to tour with Sheena, we'd be playing around clubs in Los Angeles, this Bruce Hornsby band, which wasn't called The Range yet. And the players in that kind of changed over the years too. In 85, Bruce got signed and it became Bruce Hornsby and The Range. We had George Marinelli, Dave Mansfield was in the band at that point, John Molo and myself. That was The Range behind Bruce. And the album came out in 86, and we won the Grammy for Best New Group in 1987. And we had 3 hits off the first album, sold 3 million records. And so that went from basically 85 to 92. That was my Bruce Hornsby period. In 92, The Range kind of was dissolved. George had left, other guys had left. His drummer stayed. Drummer had moved out with him from Virginia, where he was living. He stayed with him the longest, but I went back to Ambrosia and I've been there since.
The fans were happy, I'm sure, to see that.
Well, I hope so. Yeah, I think so.
What does it look like for the next few years with the group and with this tour?
Well, I mean, we're just continuing to try to I'd say, grow an audience or regrow an audience. Some people, are just realizing, hey, we're still out there, or some people are hearing us for the first time live that maybe have listened to our records over the years. We're getting it live. I've been a fan since 75 or 78 or whatever. I've never seen you live. We're just hearing them. 2016. It took you a while. Okay, here we are. But they're happy to see that we're still a viable live group, that we can still pull it off, and that we still have some great musicians in the band.
Burley was saying that in New York last night or the other night that younger, different type crowd.
Well, that's one of the things about doing this Yacht Rock review these are younger guys that are recreating the music from basically our era.
What other groups do they play?
Well, they were just working like on a Kenny Loggins song, I'm All Right. They do, what were they doing the other day? A guy that we had just backed up. Elliot Lurie, Looking Glass, you know. Brandy,
Right,
you'll find
New Jersey.
good like your feet. Yeah. And we just backed him up the other day. We did a show with him.
Do you perform with them on the stage, or do they
We
back you guys up?
we don't perform with Yacht Rock Review. No, we're separate. We're a separate entity within the show, and then Yacht Rock Review backs up. They do their own set, playing other people's music. Then they bring out Player, and they back Player up.
They back up.
They back up, yeah, the other artists, yeah, that are here.
All right, Joe, Puerta,
that
pleasure.
good?
Appreciate it.
All right.